All right, everybody, welcome to How to Build a Side Hustle with Artificial Intelligence. It's Thursday, May 9th, and we're glad that you've decided to spend your afternoon with us. My name is Albert, host here and founder of Albert's List, and I'm here with Mohit, who is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, and sales consultant. So, as you know, the world has grown a little bit uncertain these days with artificial intelligence taking over, but also many numerous layoffs, especially for those in tech, and additional worries with a lot of economic uncertainty. What better way than to bet on yourself with a side hustle? And what better way to do that than to use exactly what your expertise is and be known for it? To teach us a little bit today about what that looks like and what that all is, we brought in Mohit. Mohit Asthana is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, sales consultant, and more. And he's going to talk to us about what it takes to build a side hustle in this market and what you got to do. All right, Mohit, over to you.
Cool. All right, let me kick off my screen share. Can everyone see my screen? Cool. So my name is Mohit. This is the third webinar that we have for scaling your skill set. So the purpose of this webinar is to basically helping you monetize your skills. We're going to talk about a few things. As Albert has previously mentioned, Albert is an entrepreneur, and the founder of Albert's List. My name is Mohit. I'm a real estate investor, and I have launched quite a few side hustles before. Side hustles, including a SaaS app called Social Cycle. That was a social media CRM, I guess, is if you want to call it. I currently do a little bit of sales consulting as well, and I have about 6 years of experience in corporate sales. So let's talk about last week. So last week we kind of talked about how we want to look. We want to be very particular with our opportunities that we're looking for. So the way to sort of optimize for that is look for a high LTV to CAC ratio. So LTV was lifetime value. CAC is customer acquisition costs. So you want to look for stuff with a long customer lifespan and a lower customer acquisition cost. Previously, we had also talked about why I prefer to use cold emails to try and test different angles, different offers, etc. Why side hustles were considered great for enterprise value with in how their little business is. So if you had missed out on last week's lecture, there are different websites that allow you to sell your side hustles. So one of them might be Empire Flippers, one of them might be Flippa. There's Quite Like Brokerage. There is microacquire.com. I think that they just changed their name to acquire.com. So these are all platforms that allow you to list your site for sale and people might buy it. So any side hustle that you have, it may be worth money. It's just not, you put something in an afternoon and it's worth nothing. People also buy side hustles because sometimes it's cheaper for you to just build or it's cheaper for you to buy rather than build. And you save a lot of time when you do that. You can buy an existing book of business, you buy the underlying technology, you could buy customers' email lists. So if you have a current offering in a similar vertical, then you cross-sell that book of business. And we talked a little bit about the ideation formula, which we'll cover also as well in this lecture. Cool. So today's focus is more upon, okay, why consulting as our digital side hustle, how we can do some market research, what examples are there, using AI with real world examples. So I'm actually going to talk about different things that I've done, different prompts that you can use. And I also want to touch upon sales. In the first webinar for this series, we had talked about sales. Some of the main feedback was that, frankly, a lot of people felt scummy while doing sales, or they were just kind of tired of a fair amount of rejection. So I'm curious if anyone in the audience has had experience with creating their own consulting offer. I'm also curious about what other people have done historically for work. Please write it down in the comments below, or in the chat, I guess. I'll give it about 30 seconds. I'm very curious to see what our audience is like and what sort of expertise they have. Quiet crowd. Marketing. Okay. Cool. Thank you, Albert, for sharing. Photography, some sales. Thank you, George. Cool. So we have a couple things. Previously, we had a lot of data scientists. We had some product marketers and product managers. So the reason why there's an emphasis on consulting is because everyone has talent. Construction management, fantastic. So construction management also probably means that you're very good with program management and you're very organized. So the focus of this is how to launch a consulting business and how to use AI to help streamline your business as well. You have a few skills that are valued in your W-2 job. Your W-2 is like the day-to-day job, and you're paid for a certain skill or for a certain task that the company helps you do. These skills are valued by other people. And what you can do is you can spin up an MVP. That's a minimal viable product. And you could start selling it to see if people bite. Consulting is a low risk way to test different offers. So the way that you can think about that is the way that you word something is what's called an offer or the deliverable, which means that you can use the same types of the same skill set, but sometimes the way that you word it and phrase it can result in different things, different interpretations of that. But the reason why we focus on consulting is it's simple. It's simply a service that you provide for other people. And then you're able to trade your time for money. And if you get enough market validation from your consulting offer, then you can find a way to onboard new people, maybe change it to a productized service where you can have design packages in bulk, for example. There's a company called Design Joy, which I believe is doing $1 million a year, and that's a productized. I think it's it's either UX design or it's UI design. It's some sort of designer firm that does $1 million per year in top line revenue, and it's just one guy with a bunch of freelancers. So it's very doable. But when you're evaluating your consulting offer, you have to think, what is your skill set? What industries hire for these consultants? How should I charge? What's my pricing strategy? How should I structure my services? Do I need licenses? All of these are great questions that you should ask when you're tailoring your consulting offer. The formula of testing your consulting offer is this. So I've kind of talked about this in the past. This is actually a graph that I made with ChatGPT. So everything needs to be a repeatable, scalable process. Yeah, Clive, it's called Design Joy. So everything is a repeatable process. So you have to first find an idea. What is your offer? Two is you have to define your ideal customer persona. What are they looking for? Where do they go? We'll talk a little bit about this later on in the presentation. We'll talk about market research, how to set up different landing pages, finding your first 5 to 10 customers, reiterating that messaging based on feedback. So if the marketplace doesn't agree with you, how can you change that? And then 7 would be post-sale, creating a standard operating procedure or writing down your processes to make sure that it's very repetitive and you can take these instructions and hand it off to someone overseas so that they could do it. And then once you have an SOP, then you can scale your operations. So this is the formula just in numerical form. You have to reiterate the offer to find success. What does this mean? If this is all about testing, right? Marketing and sales, it's all about testing to see what bites. Why do people accept a meeting? Why do people click on an ad? It's the same thing with your offer. So whenever you're going outbound, you need to reiterate your offer to find success. You may not find it on email blast number 1. You may not find it on email blast number 3, but at some point you will find success, and that is if you don't give up. And the way to actually do this is just you test. Now, an example of this is with Design Joy, for example. The founder, Brett, he had some generic design firm, like, he would charge by the project. Yeah. Yeah, so this is the formula slide. This is the infographic, if you will. Thank you, Smita. So you have to reiterate the offer to find different success. And this just means that you have to constantly test different either ideas, or you have to test different angles and the way that you position it. If you have a marketing problem, it's most likely a messaging problem, which means that within your outbound, the benefits aren't sticking. Maybe you're talking too much about yourself. That is a main problem that I see in a lot of sales messaging. Maybe you're not addressing the problems that your ICP or your ideal customer persona is facing. So the way to circumvent this is to keep twisting your messaging and see what actually sticks. With cold outbound, you need to send a lot of volume. And initially, I like to try and test offers with cold outbound, because the theory is that if you're able to convince someone to sign up for your service or your product with a cold message, then that means that you've probably done something right. And there was something within your messaging that actually got them to click on it and respond to it. Cold email is very hard, but it can all be done with the formula. Does anyone have any questions so far? This is a very conversational seminar, I guess, if you want to call it that. So at any point, please write whatever in the chat you may have. Marketing problems equals messaging problem. If you're not getting success, reiterate the messaging. Try different angles in your outreach to pique interest. I've come to talk about this in the past. The big thing that I see in a lot of different companies is their messaging is all about me, 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 me. It's not about me, it's about them. Talk about the benefits, talk about the value that you can bring to your possible customers. For example, okay, how the value is formulated in terms of 3 to 4 different ways. One of them is, how can you save someone time? How can you make or save them money? One of them is, okay, can you reduce their risk? Are cold calls still relevant to how they used to be, or is it more cold emails now? Cold emails they're a lot more prevalent. Cold calls still work. Just a lot of stuff it's tougher to penetrate people's inboxes. It's harder to get through to people. There's a big difference between value proposition and spamming. How do we breach the value proposition? That's a good question, Elma. So with providing value is subjective, but it's usually about one man's spam is another person's value. I've had a lot of people that have said, hey, this is spam, please unsubscribe me. And another person saying, hey, this is exactly what I needed. Thank you so much. So it all depends on how it's perceived by the person. But the main thing is you have to make sure that it's tailored and relevant to that particular person's needs. Otherwise, don't take cold outreach so personally. Once again, it's a huge volume play, and you just need to make sure that you just, fire up your email cannon, and hopefully a couple of people will get interested. If you keep getting the same thing of, hey, this is spam, please remove me, then that means that either your list is not completely relevant, your email copy needs a little bit more work, and it's either not relevant, not personalized, or it doesn't address the benefits for the solution, or they're just not the right people. So it's all about, if the shoe fits, then you need to find people who have the same shoe size. It's kind of like Cinderella in that aspect of it. So let's talk about market research. We've kind of talked about why consulting a little bit, and how to kind of test and the different offers. So use social media to validate a lot of different businesses. So I previously talked about, okay, how can you find a side hustle? Like, what makes a side hustle worth it? And one thing that you can do is look and use social media to validate, okay, are people selling their side hustles, whether it's a business, uh, and there are websites called Biz Buy Sell, Flippa, Empire Flippers, quite like brokerage that can give you some ideas for excuse me, what different businesses are trading for. Trading for just means if there is a sort of equity multiple on their earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So for example, for a services business, it might be 1x times revenue. For an e-commerce company, it could be 2x revenue, or for another service, it could be 3x EBITDA. It really depends on the sector, but using sites like BizBuySell and Flippa kind of help you figure out, okay, are people putting websites like yours or services like yours on the market? How much are they asking? Facebook ads library too. You could see what other people are offering. So Facebook has this thing called the ads library where you can see all of the other ads that are on Facebook, and you can search for different queries. You can see what exactly are people advertising for it, because if they're advertising, then that means that there's generally demand for it. And this is a good way to sort of figure out, okay, what benefits are people advertising for? Are their pages or their ads getting any engagement for it? Reddit is also a gold mine as well. You can find different subreddits where usually people in the subreddit are very involved. So people will talk about a problem that they may have. For example, in like r/golf, for example, you can talk about, hey, like a frequent thing might come up is, oh, my swing sucks. How can I help? How can I improve it? And if there's several posts like that, then you can say, hey, like there is actually an opportunity for me to become a swing coach, for example. If you have experience in golf, maybe you were a college athlete, I don't know. And then you can go and DM them and say, hey, I noticed that you were in the market for a swing coach. My name is blah, blah, blah. Here's my experience. But you can use Reddit for market validation within the subreddits. And a lot of the posts will talk about common pains that they may have. For example, with mint.com, the personal finance app, that got acquired by Intuit a couple years ago, and they just most recently shut it down. I was a big Mint guy. I love to track my money through Mint. I posted on social media about, hey, like what are some of the other alternatives in this space? And then I had many people that DM'd me with recommendations, and a couple people were saying, hey, I'm building a product kind of to be a stopgap for Mint. I'd be curious for your take. And then they DM me on Twitter and on Reddit. So Reddit's a great way to get insights into user data, into, what do people like? Why do people like stuff like that? Facebook groups are also another alternative to Reddit as well. You'll have like your first and last name, so you know what people are like, and you can search for a lot of different things on Facebook. And usually the people that post in these Facebook groups are quite dedicated, so you'll probably get really good insights into like what they actually care about. And then even Instagram pages too. Usually with social media, the details are in the comments, not just on the page itself. So if you can find some heavily engaged social media pages, Facebook groups, subreddits, anything like that, that look for social validation, then chances are you might have a sustainable business, whether it's a service or a product. I hope that this has helped. Please comment if it's helpful, what you guys want to talk about more too. So the big thing that we're focused on here at Scale Your Skill Set is you want to validate the idea with an MVP. So this means that you want to drive traffic to a landing page via cold email. The reason for this is because it's very cheap. It's very cheap, it's very low risk, and frankly, you can just keep testing. The thing that we don't want to do is spend a ton of time on something only to find out that it doesn't work, and then you will feel very, crummy because, oh, hey, I spent so much time on it and it didn't end up working. So we like quick tests, and then this way you can say, hey, like this idea didn't work, it's cool, wonderful. So let's talk about AI. how do we use AI internally? I think when people mention AI, they talk about taking their jobs. I don't know if AI is at the point where it'll take our jobs just yet, but the way that I use it is that it augments a lot of my workflows and it makes me 10 times, 10 times as efficient. So AI isn't the end all be all. It helps you streamline manual tasks. The most important thing that you have to learn is prompt engineering. And what prompt engineering is what you type into the AI chatbot to help give you feedback or to give you answers. And the way to get good at prompt engineering is to figure out different prompts. Use AI to help you. So one thing that I like to do is say, hey, hypothetically, if you are whatever occupation, here's the goal. What I want is X, Y, and Z. I'll give my deliverables. And then I will say, are there any other prompts that you need that would help you get a better that would help deliver better feedback? And then it would give me a list of questions that I would need to answer so that it would get really good feedback. This is just one example of how I use AI and how I interact with it. Some of the different tools that we use are ChatGPT Pro. The Pro is optional. I like to use it because I get access to the most advanced computing models. I'll use Claude. I'll use OpenRouter.ai. That is a tool where you can use 3 to 4 different AI models all at one time. Gemini as well is another AI tool that you can use. How many of you guys use AI in your daily life? I'm very curious of how many people use it and what they use it for as well. Please drop it in the comments. For any sort of logos or infographics, we use Canva. For website stuff every day. Cool, I liked it on Kit. For websites, we'll use carrd.co, CARRD.co. Carrd helps you write a quick little landing page in less than 30 minutes. I'll use ChatGPT for the copy. Namecheap is where I use to get most of my domains. Templates, I'll buy templates from there's like the Carrd itself has templates. You can use WordPress too, but Carrd is just really easy from what I found. And then for outbound systems, you can use for you need to rotate your inboxes. So that's how to avoid spam and how to get your message seen. And there's software called Instantly.ai, Smartly.ai. There's Mailforge or Salesforge.ai. There's a ton of these. But the goal of the email inbox rotational tool is to rotate your inboxes so that you're able to get into the main domain, the primary domain of your intended recipient. And I also rotate through inboxes, which I get from either India, Pakistan, Africa, stuff like that. So it's really cheap. So those are some of our tech stack. I also use ZoomInfo for leads and export Apollo.io. Apollo, ZoomInfo, Leads 411. These are all databases which have like contact information. So they'll have emails, they'll have phone numbers, they'll have sometimes LinkedIn profiles where people work. I landed, yeah, it's insane. ChatGPT is crazy. I tend to use ChatGPT with ICP matrices. Sometimes if I'm interviewing, I'll use it for prep, for answering questions. It's pretty cool. Like ChatGPT is wonderful, and we're only at the beginning. I can't wait to see where it is in a year or two. Thank you, Elma. I do appreciate your input. And then also to scale, I will use hiring. I will use VAs. So a VA is a virtual assistant. Just think of them like an offshore team member to help you do any sort of task that you may think of. A VA could help you type in to help validate data, to structure data. We call them data entry people. They could be used to manage your inboxes if you're running a lot of different cold emails. So say you're sending out 20 to 30,000 emails a month and you want someone to sort through all that email to tag saying, hey, this is a positive response. No, this is not a positive response. You can use a VA to help sort through that. I had a VA that I was using to apply for jobs when I got let go in March of 2023. So as long as a task is repeatable and you can continue to refine that process, then you can hand it off to a VA, and then you can use tools like 1Password, LastPassword to share passwords very securely. The way that you can find VAs are through Upwork. There's onlinejobs.pa.ph. That's for exclusively the Philippines. Recruiting agencies. I have a friend who's from Lagos in Nigeria. I use him for all of my needs. So let's talk about what exactly do we use with AI. So a couple of things that I like to do with AI are creating SOPs, standard operating processes for the VA, creating FAQs for the websites, email and ad copy so they can create headlines, they can create descriptions, they can come up with different ideas. You can even upload images and have them create different taglines based on that image. You can have them brainstorm for different ideas. You can even have data analytics if you upload a certain spreadsheet and say, hey, please make it very pretty and I want it to be in a graph like this. You might need to use a custom GPT for that. You can use AI to create client-facing docs, so like ebooks, guides, questionnaires, stuff like that. I would recommend using Claude, Claude, Claude.ai. I think for writing, Claude's a lot better than ChatGPT. ChatGPT sounds a little robotic. And then you can also use it to research clients, their problems, help create their pitches. In the past, I had created I had a hypothetical meeting with someone like a public company when I was a sales rep, and I'd used AI to create that pitch. I uploaded their 10Q or 10K, their yearly or quarterly document, and they were able to figure out, hey, here's what the company is focused on. You can also use perplexity.ai to come up with that as well. You can also create a competitor analysis too of like, okay, well, please name the competitors in my field of X, for example. Like if I'm selling survey software, perplexity.ai, what are the main competitors for SurveyMonkey or Typeform, for example, and it'll have a bunch of different lists. And then you can also use it to create an ICP matrix as well. And you can even use it to help create copy, like email copy if you're outbound as well. Is this helpful? I mean, do you guys like, is this tangible? Like the goal of these sessions are to have tangible results and things that you can actually take home and use. So let's talk about prompt engineering. This is an example of an ICP matrix. Yes, very helpful. Thank you, Smita. So what we had talked about in this, in ChatGPT, I basically said, hey, I want to develop a new ICP for hypothetically like a cleaning kit. Like I say I wanted to create a cleaning company. Please give me a prompt for what I need to do. And then this is what ChatGPT had spit back. So these were just some factors that maybe I hadn't thought of. So for this task, it's to create an ICP matrix. So I would have never thought about age, gender level, education, income bracket. It talks about psychographics, so values, interests, lifestyle choices, and environmental consciousness, geographic location. So, okay, are my people going to be in urban settings versus rural versus suburban? It all depends. Like, are they going to be in different parts of the country? How do they shop? Do they shop online? Do they shop in person? Brand loyalty, are they brand agnostic? Are they willing to take a gamble on newer products? How do people reach out to them? Are they mostly through social media, email, etc., and the typical decision-making process? And yeah, we can ship out the slides. And then what are the specific challenges and needs that these customers are facing regarding home cleaning and sustainability? And then how do they receive information? So this is just an example of a chat that I have. So the goal of me using AI is to sort of cover in some gaps that I may have of like, I wouldn't have thought if I was creating a new customer, I would have been like, okay, well, I want people who are eco-friendly. Eco-friendly is very broad. Am I selling to people in California who are willing to take on a little bit more startup-y type of product? Or am I selling to people in the Midwest where, they're pretty reliant on what they know, on what's true and tried, and are they willing to take a chance on new products? Based on that decision, I can figure out, okay, well, what is it worth advertising on social media, for example? Or should I just go to affiliate websites, for example, and give referral codes for them? Should I cold email them? Should I cold call them? Stuff like that. So this is one example of how you can use ChatGPT to create a matrix for an ICP matrix. Another one is I told ChatGPT to create a standard operating procedure. Now, remember what we had talked about previously was SOP is standard operating procedure so that we could standardize these tasks and create a documentation so that anyone can take this document and perform whatever task. Excuse me. So I said, hey, I have an online business. I need to create SOPs. Please give me a prompt that will help me. So it talks about customer support, data entry, social media management, and content creation. Those are the 4 different tasks, which means that we'll need 4 different SOPs. But what I want from this is a standardized process or like a standardized format for my standard operating procedures. This makes it easy. I can plug it all into a Google Doc and I can just share it with all of my team. And each one of their tasks is there and it's relevant. And you can collapse the menus too. So what this has done is I've basically been able to figure out, okay, the standardized format is instruction. So we talk about an overview of what the SOP purpose is, how it's important to the business. 2 is the scope. What are the different types of tasks? Number 3 is the roles and responsibilities. List out the specific roles and what's expected from the VAs. 4 would be having step-by-step detailed instructions. Sometimes the tools and software required. Some of the best practices. I will also sometimes record Loom videos as well. Loom.com. It's a software that lets you screen share it lets you record your screen. So if you're doing any sort of thing on the computer that is repeatable, you could record it and then you could put it in your SOP. So for example, if when I was using my VA to apply for jobs, I basically showed her my screen of, hey, this is exactly what I want. And I went through the motions, I recorded it, and then I put it in the SOP so that she had a fair amount of resources and structure. And so that it would prevent her, yeah. Does Otter.ai plug into Zoom or can you just click a button and it'll record your screen too? Yeah, we can have access to the recording. I'll let Albert handle that. Number 5 is communication tools. So oh, interesting. Didn't know that. I just pay for Loom because it's what I know, but good to know about Otter. So we also talk about how VAs should communicate updates, handle queries, and escalate issues if there's any sort of issues. But basically, this is the goal of this exercise was to show how to use ChatGPT and what an example of prompt engineering is. And so creating ICP matrices and creating SOPs, maybe these aren't things that people would have thought of to use ChatGPT for. So the lesson in this is use technology to try and bounce ideas and reiterate its process with itself and have it give you feedback. So after this, I would chat, is there anything that's missing that you need from me to create a perfect standard operating procedure? And we can show this during the actual bootcamp itself as well. So let's also talk about a sales mindset too. So a sales is adding value in every interaction that you may have. So a lot of people think of a used car salesman when they think of sales, which is, hey, like let's force it on the customer even if they don't need it. Let's get, let's be a little slimy. A lot of people don't associate sales with positive experiences, right? Like please comment if you've done sales before. I know that we've had a couple people do it. With sales, it's important to get to the know. What this means is that I like to get to the no as soon as I can. AKA, I like to embrace rejection. Then this way I can focus on who exactly would be my target client. A lot of people don't have not to say the heart to say no, but they'll ghost you. Maybe they're afraid of hurting your feelings when when they're afraid to say no. But in reality, you want to get to the no first. What the no allows you to do is not waste your time, and you can figure out, okay, why did they say no? And you have to change the mentality about sales. You have to be a consultant and you have to think, okay, is my product a good fit for them? Not everyone is going to be a good fit for your product. And if you're going to enter consulting and you have no previous sales experience, this is a mindset shift that you have to take into account. And then here I'll talk about a little bit about sales frameworks. These are enterprise selling frameworks that I've used in my previous endeavors. So there's called Sandler selling. It's about getting to why and trying to figure out, okay, what's the like why are we having this meeting? What's the emotional ties behind it? Or is someone frustrated? Is someone a little disappointed with their current process? Stuff like that. Spin selling is about handling objections. Challenger sales is more about challenging the status quo of what a company or what someone is doing right now and perhaps how there might be a better way. And then MEDDIC is a sales framework that talks about the metrics, economic buyer, decision-making process, decision criteria. So like, okay, how is someone going to make a decision? Impact, what kind of impact is this having on their business or on their process? Who is your champion? So who internally is going to advocate for you? And what sort of competition are you facing? So the sales frameworks, these are mostly B2B, but I think that there's always some sort of value that you can take in the art of persuasion. Has this been helpful so far? Please write yes if it has been. So this is a funny meme that I saw that I related a fair amount to. So you want to look for the no. You don't want to, if you're always looking for that one yes, then you're going to be waiting a long time because sales is a very tough business. The way that you have to succeed is you have to have a lot of perseverance to get to the no. You're going to hear no all over again. And the way to actually do that is to change your mindset. I mean, if you're going to ever start your own company, the number one skill you need to have is sales. Whether you like it or not, whether if you're an engineer, whether you're like, I don't want to call it back office, but whether you're like product focused, you still have to start selling. You have to develop a sales mindset because it's very hard. It's like throughout my career, I've been faced with a lot of different no's. I've probably made 30 or 40,000 cold calls in my life. If that, well, I make about 50 calls per day times 5. So I make about 1,000 per month with a current contract that I have. So cold calls they're all about rejection. When was the last time that you accepted something from a cold call? If you can do it, then you're pretty good at it. And that's a valuable skill to have. But the main point of this is you have to grin, you have to take it to the next level, and you have to be ready for the next lead. Sometimes if you're not feeling like cold calling, one thing that I've done is I just fake a smile for like 30 seconds, and then it helps me get into the mood. Cold calling is not necessarily required, but it depends on your offer. You sometimes may have a lot higher success rate with cold calls. You could also outsource it as well, but results may vary. And the way that I like to work is you should cold call first, or you should try and test the different objections that you might get so that you know how to handle it, create it all in a doc. And then this way you have training documents. And so I want to talk about the fortune being in the follow-up. Sometimes people who don't really sell are going to feel a little dejected. Okay, you spent a lot of time with creating the perfect email, and then all of a sudden, boom, nothing, crickets. So the fortune is in the follow-up. Don't be afraid to send email or send a reminder after a reminder, but always add value too. For example, adding value is being like, hey, I saw this, is sending a prospect, a relevant article that you saw saying, hey, thought of you. Well, but a lot of times people are busy. Maybe they think that your service is really good. And the way that I've been taught is to have a binary decision tree, either yes or no, unsubscribe, leave me alone, not at this time. And the follow-up is the way that we can achieve this. All right, so let's talk about, do you actually want to create a consulting business? Has the information in this webinar been very helpful? Like, how many of you guys actually want to go through it, and do you guys have an idea for a consulting business that you guys want to make? Please comment. So if you are interested in this, then Albert and I are creating a boot camp called Scale Your Skill Set. So it's a cohort focused boot camp to launch a real side hustle. And why do you join? Online meditation and conflict coaching. That's amazing. So why would someone join? So all this information is fantastic. This might be information you could find online, but it's going to take you a long time. But a lot of the times you don't get accountability. It's very hard to remain focused to actually execute. And oftentimes there's a lack of community where you can celebrate your wins, you can celebrate the losses, you can talk about how people are ignoring you, stuff like that. We're offering that. So let's talk about what it actually is. It's a 6-week boot camp. You'll have 6 different lessons about getting started with entrepreneurship, market development, offer development, building infrastructure, testing it, how to scale and measure success, automate, delegate, execute. We talk about how to use VA, stuff like that, defining your ICP, getting your initial customers, and actually building your small business, actually building your consulting business and moving it beyond just 1 or 2 clients, how to build a sustainable revenue income stream. So here are the different modules. Module 1 is about finding your strengths, more efforts from your time. Module number 2 is researching an offer, identifying customer pain. So what are the main benefits, how to price your offer, and that goes along with researching and doing market research as well. Module number 3 is setting up a landing page in cold email and then just testing it, getting immediate feedback via cold email or cold calls or just cold outreach. And then number 4 is testing it, reiterating it, and hopefully you guys will have a couple of clients that may pay you a couple dollars, because once you get those first couple dollars, you think, hey, I can do this and I can actually create a sustainable practice for this consulting business. How can you collect? Yeah, so we have a $100 gift card or a $100 off coupon. Can you talk about the legal part of it too? More importantly, how to collect for your service and how to report the tax. So so for the legal side, you could do it as a sole proprietor. So you could do it as a sole proprietor until you get past a certain threshold. Oftentimes, in California, for example, to create an LLC, it costs you $800 for the franchise tax board fee. If you have if you have like $1,000 or $2,000 worth of revenue, I don't know if it makes sense for you to pay $800. You can collect for your service through Stripe, through PayPal. You can invoice it through that. Stripe is pretty easy to set up too, so it's pretty cool. I think anyone can do it. The way that you would look at it is through it's called a sole proprietorship. So look at it, sole proprietor. Cool. So let's talk about pricing. Special pricing just for you. Albert had said $347. Why you? So if the right people if anyone that's watching this, if this would be a good fit for you, if you're dedicated to creating a side income stream, you want hands-on training and you want accountability, and you have a skill set that's commercially viable, and you're ready to put in work and accountability and community. So this is one thing. We have, I think, $297 webinar pricing for the time being. Albert, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is webinar pricing only. So what we have, 297 webinar pricing, 347 early bird pricing, and 447 of regular pricing. So get your yeah. So after this webinar, I think you'll get about till midnight for the webinar pricing. After that, the pricing goes up. The whole point of this is if you want community accountability and you actually want to create something. People might argue, hey, I can just learn all this stuff myself, but if you had already learned all this stuff yourself, you probably wouldn't have been on this boot camp, or you wouldn't have been on these webinars as well. So what's included, you get 6 one-hour Zoom sessions, you get a cohort group chat, so that's the community building aspect of it. You'll get launching your own offer, office hours, you'll get access to VA networks at lower prices. I have access to, my friend has a talent agency in Nigeria, they have great talent, and you'll get, like he does, his fee is just 20% versus 10, and you get direct, you pay at cost. And then I'm also launching nextdayunderwriting.com. It's a done with you offer for real estate underwriting. And you'll also get templates for SOPs, FAQs, prompt engineering, stuff like that. So yeah, it's $200 off. So it's a good, it's a good value. So act now. Once again, this is only going to go on until midnight. It is currently 4 o'clock. So I highly encourage you guys to take action on it. So I'm going to open up the floor for questions. We have about 6 minutes, like about 5 minutes or so. We'll leave for questions. Are there any questions? Scholarships? I don't think we have any plan right now. Can you explicit more on what will be done at the boot camp? Yeah, so we'll basically talk about each one of these different. So we'll talk about what exactly is there. So these are the 4 different modules. We have PowerPoints that are created. We'll go through exactly what to look for. So for example, like finding your strength to sell, we'll have people do exercises, and then we'll go through like, oh, what are commercial viable skills and how can you create income from it? And then 2 is like, okay, you have an offer. We'll talk about what are the unique identifiers. What were the lead gen tools that I mentioned? I'll get to that. In the second modules, we'll talk about, okay, here's how to do research themselves. And we'll actually go through like a couple different subreddits, different Facebook groups, and show you in real time what it's like. The lead gen tools that I had mentioned were Apollo.io and Zoom Info and Leads 411. These are some tools that you can use to scrape for emails, for phone numbers, for job titles, and basically just scrape maybe like 1,000 contacts and stuff like that. Yes, Gerardo. Yeah, I saw Gerardo raised his hand. Yeah, so those were the lead gen tools. There's instantly.ai. Also in the course, we're going to talk about, okay, I'll show you guys how to create a landing page in Card, how to set up a cold email campaign, which a lot of people may not have, and like how to create good cold emails, what email sequences are. A lot of it will be sales oriented too, not just crafting an offer. So we'll help you start an offer and send out a couple test emails and hopefully land your first client through that. That's what you guys will get. And then you guys will also watch me and go through the process and how I think about stuff. Cool. Yes, Gerardo. Please write your comment in the chat so that we can answer it. We have about 4 more minutes for questions. Yeah, and we with the goal of this is to have you guys succeed. We don't want you guys to like feel like your money is wasted. The whole point of this is for you guys to have an offer that's done. Um, the a lot of courses that I've seen that I've taken, most of them just don't even complete that specific course. So the reason why we have this in a cohort is hopefully to encourage people to actually take action on this, and so that they're able to come up with, if they have an idea in the future, then they know the steps to actually execute and see if it's a commercial idea. Hello, would you provide a big picture about the topic, time, and effort? Is it the second line? Is it the second line of the list of topics? The big picture about the topic, time, or the effort? It's about 6 hours of classes, and I'll hold office hours too. So it'll probably be like 10 to 12 hours and then maybe some homework. Cool. We've got 3 minutes left. Any other questions?
Yeah, so basically it's the hour for the 6 sessions to an hour and a half, so that's anywhere between 6 to 9 hours, plus an hour of office hours, so that's another probably 6 hours, which comes out to about 15 hours of coursework. And then all the effort that you want to put in between is really up to you. Um, and so, yeah.
And you're like, frankly, a lot of people want to dream about entrepreneurship, and it's not that complicated. Once we kind of show you, like I've talked about what's behind that curtain, what will you learn in the second class? So you'll basically learn like, all right, here are what my skill sets are. If I'm hired, for example, if I have an idea to I had an idea to create a job application service, and I got a couple customers for it. I basically posted on Facebook about it, but I created a landing page, and then I started sending out cold emails, and I posted about it on social media. I ended up growing it to a couple $100 in MRR, but that was a quick little experiment. So it's basically talking about that, and then I'll also be going through and sharing an idea that I have right now for an underwriting service for a real estate company. So you guys will kind of not just hear me talk about it, but see me do it, and then we'll have progress as well. Cool. We got 1 more minute for questions. 1 more minute.
Yep. So if your hands are raised, by the way, note this is a webinar, so feel free to type in your question. It could take a minute to a couple more minutes just to hear what everyone has to say, especially if you're interested in what we have going forward.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like, once again, this boot camp is for you if you guys have ideas of if you guys have like a skill that you guys want to commercialize and try and get some paying clients for being a consultant or something like that. You guys can also try Upwork.com if you guys don't want to go outbound as well. Upwork is like a great place for that. I'm glad that you found it helpful, Smita. I hope to see you at the webinar. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well, to stay in touch. Cool.
Yeah.
4:55. All right. I think we'll wrap up now. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this webinar. Albert, do you have any final thoughts? Any comments?
No, but I appreciate all of you for taking your time to join us today. We'll be following up on this webinar with a recording as well as the discount code that is available through midnight tomorrow morning. And so thank you so much. We look forward to working on your next side hustle with you, and we'll see you again really soon. Thanks so much. Bye.
Cool. Yeah. Bye.